usually starts with something small. A quiet moment in the house when you think everything is fine, and yet your cat is sitting there, watching you like you've just broken an invisible rule you didn't even know existed. No noise, no chaos, just that still, unreadable stare that somehow feels heavier than words. And that's the strange truth most people never realize until it's too late in the relationship with their cat. You are not just living with them. You are being observed, evaluated, and quietly interpreted through a set of rules you were never taught. Recent research suggests that most cat behavior problems don't actually come from the cat being difficult, but from humans completely misunderstanding what those behaviors mean. Because cats don't live in our world of loud affection and constant touch. They live in a world built on signals, distance, timing, and choice. And when those rules are broken, even by accident, something changes in them. They don't explode like dogs might. They don't complain. They retreat. They hesitate. Sometimes they slowly stop trying. But when you begin to understand even a few of those hidden rules, it feels like the entire relationship shifts. It starts with something as simple as eye contact. Most people think looking into a cat's eyes is a sign of love. A deep, silent connection. A way of saying, I see you, I trust you, I adore you. And sometimes that's exactly how it feels to us. But in a cat's world, a long, direct stare is not affection. It is pressure. It is challenge. It is the language of confrontation. In nature, animals don't lock eyes unless something is about to happen. Even among cats, friends don't hold unbroken eye contact. They glance. They look away. They blink slowly and move on. Because safety is found in softness, not intensity. So when a human stares at a cat with love in their heart, the cat doesn't feel love first. It feels intensity. And sometimes confusion. Sometimes even threat. There are countless small stories like this. A cat that suddenly swats when someone stares too long. A cat that turns away and leaves the room without warning. Not because it hates its owner, but because it is correcting something it believes is socially wrong. And the beautiful part is, cats already give us the solution. Instead of staring, they offer something gentler. The slow blink. A soft closing of the eyes, a pause, and a calm reopening. In cat language, that is not just a gesture. It is trust. It is peace. It is saying, I am safe with you. And when a cat returns that blink, something quiet but powerful happens between you. But understanding cats doesn't stop there. Because just as important as how you look at them, is how you approach them. Most people make the same mistake without even realizing it. They rush toward their cat. They reach first. They bend down, call them, chase them with affection, hoping for a cuddle that feels immediate and mutual. But cats don't experience love as something to be grabbed. They experience it as something to be chosen. And that changes everything. And once you understand that single idea, that a cat must choose you, not be pulled toward you, the entire relationship begins to feel different, almost quieter, almost more patient than anything we're used to. Because cats don't respond to pressure. They respond to permission. There is something deeply personal about the way they decide when to come closer. You can sit in the same room for hours, offering your presence like an open door, and they may ignore you completely. Not out of rejection but out of timing. Out of their own internal sense of safety and curiosity. And then, when you least expect it, when you've stopped asking for anything at all, they will appear. Soft steps. Careful pause. And suddenly, they are there beside you as if it was always meant to happen that way. That's when people realize something important. The moments of affection that feel the strongest are never the ones you chase. They are the ones you are given. And in that quiet truth lies one of the deepest rules cats live by. Control equals comfort. When a cat chooses the moment, it feels safe. When a human chooses for them, even with love, it can feel overwhelming. Not because the cat doesn't trust you, but because trust, for them, is built on freedom, not force. That's why some cats will walk away from a hand that reaches too quickly, only to return minutes later on their own terms. And when they do return, it's not hesitant. It's certain. It's real. And if you've ever had a cat suddenly jump into your lap without warning, you already know the difference. That moment doesn't feel like permission asked. It feels like permission granted. But there's another invisible layer to this relationship that most people never even think about, and it exists all around your home without you noticing. Your cat is constantly mapping your world. Not with sight alone, but with scent. Every corner, every object, every fabric in your home carries meaning in a way you can't fully see. When your cat rubs against a chair or presses their face into your leg, they are not just being affectionate. They are marking. Not ownership in the human sense, but familiarity, safety, belonging. Your home, to your cat, is not defined by furniture or walls. It is defined by scent. A constantly updated emotional map built from smell and memory. And this is why change can feel so strange to them. When we clean too aggressively, rearrange too quickly, or remove their familiar scents without warning, we are not just making things neat. We are rewriting their map without asking for directions. Imagine waking up and every room in your house smells slightly different, every corner feels unfamiliar, every safe place has lost its identity. That quiet confusion is what your cat feels in those moments. And so they respond in their own way. They investigate. They rub again. They slowly rebuild what was taken away, not out of stubbornness but out of need. A need to feel grounded again in a world that suddenly feels edited. But perhaps one of the most misunderstood parts of living with a cat is something even simpler than scent or space. It is sound. Or more specifically, their voice. Because when a cat looks at you and meows, it is not random. It is not background noise. It is directed communication shaped specifically for you. Cats don't really use those vocal patterns with each other in the same way. Over time they learn something remarkable: humans respond to sound. And so, they adapt it. They change their voice. They refined it. They built a language just for us. And the most fascinating part is that they don't just repeat the same sound. They adjust it. If one tone doesn't work, they try another. If one pitch gets ignored, they refine it. It is not noise. It is strategy. Quiet, persistent communication designed to reach a very specific listener, you. Which is why silence in return can mean something very different to a cat than we think. It doesn't just feel like being ignored. It can feel like being unheard. And that's where something beautiful happens when you finally respond. Even in the smallest way. A glance. A soft word. A simple acknowledgement that says, "I hear you." Because to a cat, being heard is not just communication. It is connection. And once that connection begins to deepen, another truth slowly reveals itself. One that most people only realize when they start paying closer attention to everything their cat does around them. Once that connection begins to deepen, something subtle starts to change in the way your cat moves through your home. It's no longer just a space they pass through. It becomes a shared world. And in that shared world, even the smallest details begin to matter more than you ever imagined. You start noticing how they hesitate at doorways, how they pause before entering a room, how their eyes scan corners you never even think about. It isn't uncertainty. It is awareness. A quiet, constant reading of the environment, as if every space is being checked for emotional safety before they step inside it. To a cat, safety is not just about being fed or sheltered. It is about knowing they are never trapped, never cornered, never forced into a situation where escape is impossible. That instinct runs deeper than comfort. It is survival written into their behavior. And that is why even a cat that loves you deeply will still choose a spot where they can see every exit. Even when they are relaxed. Even when they are purring. Because trust for them does not mean giving up control. It means feeling safe enough to keep it. When humans misunderstand this, they often think the cat is being distant. But in reality, the cat is doing something far more important. It is choosing to stay. And that choice becomes even more meaningful when you realize how sensitive they are to how they are touched. Not every form of affection feels the same to them. What we call petting is not always received as love in the way we intend. A hand moving too quickly, too firmly, or too unpredictably can feel overwhelming. Not because the cat dislikes affection, but because their body experiences touch in a much more immediate, physical way than ours does. That's why the most trusted cats often guide the interaction themselves. They lean in. They shift closer. They decide the rhythm. And when they stop, even slightly, they are not being difficult. They are communicating something simple. That's enough for now. And the people who learn to respect that unspoken limit often discover something surprising. The cat doesn't withdraw. It returns more often. It stays longer. Because respect in their world is not abstract. It is felt. There is also a quiet truth about rest that most people miss completely. When a cat is sleeping, curled into itself, soft and still in a patch of sunlight or a quiet corner, it is not just resting. It is disappearing into a state of complete vulnerability. And yet, that vulnerability only exists because it feels safe enough to allow it. That is why interrupting those moments can break something invisible. Not trust entirely, but rhythm. The emotional rhythm they have built with you. And once that rhythm is respected, something powerful grows in its place. A sense of peace that doesn't need to be constantly confirmed. And in that peace, cats begin to show something that feels almost like companionship without effort. Sitting beside you without needing attention. Existing near you without asking for anything. Watching the world with you not because they are told to, but because they want to be there. It is in those moments that many people finally understand something they never expected. That a cat's love does not always look like affection. Sometimes it looks like distance that never leaves. Silence that stays close. Independence that still chooses you every single day. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is this. Cats do not love in the way we demand. They love in the way they allow. Slowly. Carefully. On their own terms. But once given, it is not fragile. It is consistent. It is honest. It is real in a way that doesn't need constant proof. And when you finally stop trying to control that bond, when you stop chasing it, forcing it, questioning it, something unexpected happens. The cat comes closer. Not because you asked, but because, in its own quiet language, you finally became someone worth staying near.